Well, hello, everybody. Welcome once again to Mike Meyers. I know we don't look like Mike Meyers, but Mike Meyers AMA Live Q&A. Hi, Scott.
Hey, Dave. How are you?
Scott. You know what?
I keep forgetting. Dave, how are you?
You know what? I keep forgetting. Wait a second.
Sorry. Little echo there. Hi, I'm Scott.
Oh, my goodness, it was you. I was looking at mine. I was in panic mode.
No, it was mine this time. You got Monday. I got Wednesday.
Okay.
So, hey, everyone. I'm Scott Jernigan. I'm editor-in-chief for Total Seminars. I have worked extensively with Mike Meyers over the past couple of decades, teaching, writing, editing all of his books, and as a co-author and an author in my own right of many titles. So that's me. I'm here also with...
Hi, I'm Dave Rush. Most of you know me. There's a few new faces already, though, that I'm seeing. I'm the senior instructor at Total Seminars, not doing a lot of face-to-face instruction these days. But in the meantime, I've got all kinds of projects that I'm working on to support these. You'll find me supporting Udemy and other forums where we host our video courses and pick up a lot of little niggly projects that dangle here and there. And somebody in the hierarchy says, man, we don't have enough people to do this project. Dave, what are you doing? And fortunately, on days like today, Mike's not available. I think he's almost back, but he's got one interesting little side turn. So he's asked Scott and I to fill in one more time.
So I think he saw the weather coming, and that's why he decided to take one more little side trip before he came home. So better to avoid the hurricane that's about to hit us in about what, less than 12 hours?
Yeah, right. Give or take 12 hours, it makes landfall. Yeah.
Yeah. So hurricanes, for those of you who live down on the Gulf Coast, you know all about hurricanes. For those of you who don't, and you might just see them on the news, they're pretty intense, as in like super intense. When it's easy to say something like wind gusts of 130 miles per hour, but to see the amount of destruction that happens when wind just blows through, forget the rain, forget the flooding, just the wind alone can just uproot 100-year-old trees and fling them. Yeah, it's pretty astonishing.
Yeah, wind speed is a really amazing force. If you take a board of X width and X length and you hold it up, however big you make it, but let's say it's just big enough that you can hold against it at a 60 mile an hour dead on wind. When that wind goes up 10 miles an hour, the force almost doubles. So no longer are you pushing with just your body weight, it's pushing against you with double your body weight and you're going over. So a 60 mile an hour storm is something. A 70 is really something. 80s, 90s, 100s. And we have seen, Scott and I have seen gigantic trees uprooted and houses knocked over and all that kind of stuff. And this is the biggest storm that I've been in Houston for so far. I've been through Category 2 hurricanes, and this one has just reached Category 4. So by far and away, the biggest one the most powerful, windy one that I've ever seen. And they said it's even going to get a little stronger before it makes landfall at 1 o'clock in the morning or so our time.
So we live in interesting times. It's very exciting.
I'll tell you something we did. We covered our bases. We didn't know when it was going to hit. It's been all over the map for arrival time. So we had banners ready to go to say, show delayed due to inclement weather. And again, it's going to hit tonight, sometime in the middle of the night, early tomorrow morning. And there are predictions all over the place about what's going to happen where we are directly if we lose power or the inability to get on the internet. Keep an eye on the banners in the next day or so. We have a banner ready to go for Pi Day Friday to let you know if we're going to be here or not. Some of our folks who do back support have already bailed out of town, so they've got the ability to at least get things started out there. But Scott and I have commitments for the moment and have to stay in town.
So exciting.
Yeah.
So let's go with the latest question in the feed before we see who's here, because it's appropriate. Elbow says, what's that gizmo behind you?
Who asked that, first of all?
Elbow, all the way at the end of the street.
Okay. So I'm not even going to go down there. So hi, Elbow. You know, you've been here every day, or almost every day, that I always keep something wacky up in the background. The other day I did fiber optic lamps, and I was looking for something fun today. So I went up into the studio, and I have a pair of these old 80s, 90s plasma disc screens, one that's straight green that looks like the one from 7 of 9, and this multicolored one. So I've rigged it up to my regeneration chamber, so I'm using it to regenerate right now.
Dave the Gadgeteer, always worthy.
So you want to tell them how to find us and
Oh, absolutely.
sales and stuff?
Absolutely.
Fire away.
So if the whole purpose of this Ask Me Anything is for those of you who are studying from home. We're all stuck in lockdown and not going to classes, not unable to socially interact well. So we provided this forum, Mike Meyers provided this forum to enable you to ask questions of people who are like-minded. You're layering over the screens there, Dave.
I am, and I'm not sure how or why that happened, but there we go.
Okay. So the key is we want you to ask questions. So here's our contact information. If you want to contact us in any way, there's Michael M at totalsim.com. That's Mike Meyers. Dave R at totalsim.com, or Dave put his personal email up there as well, drushtx at yahoo.com. And I am, you might be seeing a pattern here, Scott J at totalsim.com. So if you have a complicated question or something you think of during the stream and forget to ask, just email us. We love this stuff. So there's our contact information. We're also gamers. So our Steam accounts, Mike is Senor Pepe. Dave is Blood Rush TX, and I'm Scarheart. So look us up on Steam if we're on and playing some games. Have fun with it. Just because you're here and because we're trying to facilitate your studying for CompTIA exams, we have a special just for you, the people who are on this live stream. And this week, the special is 50% off all A+ and Network Plus super bundles. That's the videos, the total tester practice tests, and the total sim simulations, and the Sec Plus video and total tester bundle. So just use code MMLive824 at checkout at totalsim.com. It's good through August 30th. That's a pretty astonishing special. So I would take advantage of it. Our salespeople don't often pull out all the stops like this. Also, if you're a teacher actively teaching a CompTIA class, we have even more specials for you, as in like amazing. So much that if I say it on air, people will be stampeding to get to Kathy Yale. But that's who you need to talk to if you're a teacher. Kathy Y at totalsim.com. Just shoot her an email.
Awesome, Scott. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So everybody's clear. We've got super bundles and we have bundles. So the super bundles have the 3 parts in it. They've got the total tester, they've got the video, and they've got the total sims. And then the regular bundle, since Scott is just this close to completing the sims on Sec Plus, but they're not quite ready to go. So we have just this close. So we have a bundle for that one. It's the videos and the total tester, but doesn't include sims. But it's commensurately already less expensive. You take 50% off of that, and you got yourself one heck of a show. All right. Well, who's here? I see the usual crowd. Hi, Tolowit and Alan Duggan. Mark Waskelis, a new face in the crowd. Hi, Mark. Nice to see you. Greetings, Greg, and our friend from not Portugal, Andrew de Goyert. If you've been here a while, you get that joke.
But it's actually, he's not from Belgium. Come
That's
on.
right.
Get the joke right.
Yeah, I got a huge list of places he's not from.
Taylor Brook, welcome back.
The governor are shutting down the whole island for 2 weeks, starting tonight. I'm sorry, the island has been turned off. Tolowit's in, I don't know if you're on the Big Island or not, but Tolowit is in out in Hawaii. So 2 weeks starting tonight. Glad that the Total Sim team will be here to keep me. Well, we hope we're here. You know, we're all in kind of the same boat for different reasons. So we'll do everything we can, but at least we got you covered for today.
Relatively sane. No.
Yeah, well, I wasn't going to comment on that. That was low hanging fruit. Another new face. I'm going to try it. A GIAC 82 geese. I'm going to assume that he was a geezer in 1982, which is pretty darn old today.
Right.
This is like an old friend get together. A couple of people check in. They all know each other. They just all start talking together right off the bat.
Right. Yes, it's fun. It's fun. It's a nice little community.
Thank you. We hope not to evacuate. Hey, I got a new tripod. Good news. My camera no longer vibrates when I hit the table. I'm bouncing the table like crazy and it's not moving. However, the leg is down by my left foot and I just bumped the tripod. So if it shakes, it's just because of my leg Tourette's syndrome or something.
You should get yourself a table, Dave.
Yeah, what a concept.
Chaco Taco, hello. We're doing fine. Thank you. We hope we're safe too. Cindy Enstey, welcome.
We'll go with that. Dave always has a gizmo behind. All right, Ajake, you know what? It's an interesting thing. He posts offsite backups, and sure, you got to do what you got to do for emergencies. And without giving away too much of the farm, all the forecasts that we saw indicates we're going to get high winds and some rain, but not like where it's going to hit center. So we didn't go pull out all the stops that we usually do when there's one barreling down on us. But you're not only exactly right about offsite backups, but for our own things, we have this really cool policy. Everybody has an assignment of what critical equipment to take with them. So this person takes that server and this person takes that computer, and we all just kind of fan out, handing it to the people who are going to evac. So we have a valid but unorthodox approach to protecting critical resources and assets.
And of course, our data is safely offsite, so that's right. We're good with that. The cloud is an amazing thing, and if you're not taking advantage of it, you should as soon as you can.
Yeah, you're definitely missing something. Tullowit, I think you're hitting on Cindy, not just looking for information there, bud. Cindy's got a real question. Can I compress or delete the hyperfill.sys? I see conflicting, but it's taking over 6.5 gigs of space on my hard drive. No, that's pretty simple. So hyperfill.sys, anybody who doesn't know, is when you set your computer up to hibernate. Before it goes into hibernate state, it does a memory dump into a file. So the entire contents of your memory, whether it's occupied by something or not occupied by something, it's a total map of the total contents, and it saves it to the root directory of your, let's say C drive for now, and that's true for 99% of cases. So only Microsoft knows how that format is, and if you had compressed it and you came back out of hibernation, the system would look at the file and say, I don't understand that, whatever that data format is, it's not the format that I saved hyperfill.sys into. So yes, it would save space if you never actually used hibernation. But wait, you know what? If it's there, it's there from the last time you hibernated. It really doesn't matter. Next time you hibernate, that file is going to be wiped out and a new file will be generated in its place. So the reality is you can delete it and it's not going to hurt you. It doesn't reuse the old hyperfill.sys. It simply recreates one from scratch. And of course, the more memory you have, the longer it takes for it to go into that hibernate state, because it's got to create that file. The faster the hard drive or SSD, the quicker that'll be. And likewise for coming out of hibernate. But no, do whatever you want with it, because you're not ever going to reuse it. But I wouldn't even waste my time compressing it. I would just delete it if 6.5 gigs is a critical space issue for your hard drive. You may want to start looking at a bigger hard drive too, if that is a critical issue. Plasma screen. Thank you, Telewit.
So at 2:08, Ajake asks, has Intel fixed the supposed no execute vulnerabilities in Gen 10 CPUs?
Not to my knowledge. I can't swear to that. That's a Google search. But I don't have that answer. Greetings, Falak. Nice to see you, sir. Andre, A+, Net Plus, Total Bundler without sin. Okay, because we're not. Once again, Andre takes a stab at you. Sorry, I think I did too, so he's following my lead. Sorry about that.
I'm working on them. I promise I'm working on the Security Plus simulations.
He always uses the same 4 emojis. I should have just looked there and said, oh, okay, that's an Andre shot.
Man, you guys are tough.
209, Cindy follows up. Also, why would I have duplicates of the same files in program files and program files x86? I don't know how or why you would. I mean, you can't have 2 files with the same name in the same folder. If you're suggesting that you have duplicate files, one in program files and the other in program files x86, that's possible. They're in different places, and one of them may be a support file for a 32-bit program that you have, and the other one in a 64-bit program that you have. There are files that are used in different programs with the same name, so you'd have to look and do a file compare. Check out the FC command sometime from the command line, and you can do a file compare and find out if they're truly identical. But because they are in different folders, it is completely acceptable. And as for why, there are any number of reasons, but they're probably okay. 209 LBE had a question, told myself to write it down, then told myself I'd remember it. We all suffer that. I have. If I don't have my handy dandy envelope with notes on it, and I kind of stole the concept from Mike, I live and die on the memo app on my Android phone, because I know that I will forget. But when it comes back to you, go get them. Another new name at 209, Artigal.
Hey, welcome to DC.
Yeah.
Welcome from DC.
It's okay. We could be anywhere. This is the cloud.
Right. Telewit. Oh, my. Happy birthday.
Yeah, indeed.
We would sing for you, but 2 people singing on a Zoom call is really horrific. Although,
especially with my voice, even if we could get it right. Me too. I picked up a brisket a couple days before this storm started, and then I looked at my wood pile and found out I only had enough wood to do a few racks of ribs and a couple of chickens. So I did those, and I got a brisket sitting in the fridge, but I've got to restock wood as soon as I figure in 2 days we'll be able to restock wood and get that smoked.
In 2 days, you'll be able to restock wood cheaply.
I'll just pick it up off the floating.
From all the downed trees. We will have a gluttage. Is that even a word?
It is today.
It is today, a gluttage of firewood.
Okay, Falak is asking about the discount. Does MM Live 824 apply to only practice exams? So we do a different discount program every week. This week, the discount program applies to super bundles, and that's any of the products that we have that have a video and simulations and total tester, or Sec Plus is an exception to that. It comes with the videos and the practice test, total tester. So that's what it is this week. If those aren't what you need this week, hang on till Monday, and there'll probably be something very new. We don't set that up. Excuse me, the sales department does.
Right.
So yeah, it was last week, right? Yeah, last week we had all the total tester products, 50% off all total tester products, but that one's gone. There's a chance though. Kathy's pretty nice. You might want to, we advised you last week to contact her. I don't know if you did, but if you weren't able to, kick her off a note. Maybe she'll do something retroactive for you. I can't speak for her.
So at 211, we have a new face. I'll just call him Symbol.
There you go.
I don't know what symbols those are.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of a cross between wingdings and Asian symbols. So welcome, Symbol. The artist formerly known as Symbol.
I like it. I like it.
Yes, actually, LBO, that was the phrase I was looking for, restless leg syndrome.
That's right.
There was a comedian, a great Alan, who used to do a song called I Can't Stop My Leg. It was a great bit. Look it up sometime on YouTube.
Gotcha.
I didn't do my highlight trick and it blasted on me.
So at 211, Somali, I would butcher your last name. Welcome. Welcome. Good to see you again, I should say.
I'm going to go with Udita Seeb.
Udita Seeb? That's probably pretty close.
Yeah, there's two caps in there, so maybe two words. But
so at 212, Cindy has another follow-up question.
Go get her.
My XAAMP crashes, and I may have deleted the DLL file instead of uninstalled it, and now I can't uninstall after I reinstall. Is it there forever?
I'm going to read that again.
Okay.
Very slowly because I had a tough time parsing it. Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. If you've deleted a DLL that was a necessary element for a particular program, the usual fix, well, let's look at two ways. The typical fix, I think, would be to simply reinstall, and you indicate that you've done that. You can't uninstall after you've reinstalled. The other thing that you might do, Cindy, is just check your recycle bin. Maybe it's in there. I don't know how you deleted it. If you know the name of the deleted DLL file, you may be able to get or replace that from the vendor site. Lots of people post stuff like that all over the web, but virus scan it. Well, that's a toughie.
Yeah, I don't have any better answer.
I'm here. You take the next thing. I'm going to look something up.
Okay. XAMP is a web server, Apache web servers. I did look that up while you were talking.
Okay, well, that's I'll skip that.
Okay, so Falak, yeah, okay. Falak contacted Kathy, good. I jumped. I jumped a lot.
Okay, it's a PHP development environment. So it'll be supported on all kinds of, well, that's a pain. So Cindy, did you do that on a Windows system or on a Linux distro? I got to assume Windows because you said DLL, but whatever web server you're using to support PHP development, let us know. Maybe that'll help a little bit, but for the moment, I'm stumped. So that's twice. We're losing the contest. Stump Dave and Scott. Cindy wins 2 out of.
Right. All right. So Elbow is still working on trying to remember his question.
They make pills for that, bud.
All right. So at 216, I'm mentioning the timestamps. If you do the little kind of 3 dots in the top right corner of the chat, you can toggle show timestamps. That just helps us keep track of where people are. And when I mention the time, you can go, oh, he's way back then and we're already at 45, which happens sometimes depending on the length of the questions that we get or the length of the answers that we give to the questions that we get. That's more appropriate.
Yeah, we get too far behind. We're going to speed them up so we can get to the end. I got one for you here because he's got a specific page reference In a book at 216, Falak says on page 332 of Mike's Sec Plus book, Leap uses dynamic WEP keys and provides for mutual authentication. Shouldn't it be WAP key? No, WAP keys are not. Oh, huh.
Yeah, no, WEP key is correct.
Yeah.
As far as the static versus dynamic, I'm pretty sure that that we got that right.
Yeah, I've never encountered an error or a commentary on an error.
Yeah.
I tell you what, Falak.
I mean, certainly later. Oh, interesting. I see what you're saying.
Okay, so there's a major typo here, I think, on the part of Falak. So he's talking about WEP and WAP. I think if he is talking about some kind of comparison, he means between WEP and WPA, not WAP.
Oh, I just read it as WPA. Yeah, I assume that's what he meant.
I'm sure that you're right.
But the WEP is static and WPA is dynamic. So I understand what the question is.
Yeah. Well, they're both dynamic. They both rotate. The problem is WEP has such a short initialization vector that it rotates very quickly. Within 20,000 iterations, you'll get a repeat.
Right.
Whereas WPA has the much longer one, and it takes a lot more effort to get that to recycle.
Are you noting that? I can
writing down like a madman.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So 217, Andre, I have to be tough on you, Scott. Sec Plus will be next on my list soon. First, finish A+. Okay, you haven't even finished A+ yet, Andre. I will definitely be done by the time you're ready for Security Plus.
Except for that one guy who started, except for the one guy who started with Sec Plus the other day.
Right. Edward, right? On Monday, Edward Foible.
You know, I got the memory of a fruit fly sometimes. I copied and pasted Falak's whole note on here so that I can truly look it up effectively.
Okay, cool.
All right.
So 217, Cindy, one more. Oh, and by the way, thank you for asking questions, because that's what keeps this whole thing going. We'll go all the way till 4 o'clock Central Daylight Savings Time, as long as the questions keep rolling. So if we accidentally skip your question, the scrolling in the YouTube live chat is really weird. And every once in a while, I'll like do one click of the mouse wheel and it'll scroll 20 minutes. So if we accidentally skip your question and we just go on and you're like, hey, you missed me, just ask your question again and we'll get to it. All right. Or you can just say, hey, go back up to 218. That's when I ask my question. That'll work too. So Cindy says, one more. On the total SIM, it focuses on Windows 7 and Vista.
Now, notice Ian's got a response on the next line too, so you guys can work together with that one. This is the same thing we talked about this morning. We need more Win 10 interactive stuff.
Right. There was, I think we've culled out all of the Windows Vista and XP. There was an XP reference, by the way, in a SIM that we discovered a couple of days ago. A student pointed out in chapter 19. There you go, little Easter egg.
We missed some. I started that project. I went through all of the SIMs and pulled all the ones with XP, but I'm human. I miss one now and again.
So if you have a specific one, Cindy, like 19.8, that would be good to point out. That's the only time I remember seeing Vista referenced. But if there's some other place, then yeah, we are human. So we would be happy to cull that and redo it. In fact, Ian Camacho, who's answering in the live stream, and I and Dave are working on the Windows 10 version of the A+ SIMs So we've added a bunch more of those and continuing to do so as we speak. So if there are some that we need to replace, it's what's the programming term for a digital program that changes all the time? Evergreen?
Polymorph. No, so that's malware.
So it's an evergreen product, which means we can continue to change it and perfect it. And as we get new scoop on more simulations, we'll add more. So the simulations continue to improve, just like our total tester practice tests continue to improve as well over time. So there you go.
Yeah. But Scott has been working diligently on creating lots of new Win 10 focused stuff. We know everybody's doing a lot more Win 10. So it's not just about culling some of the old stuff that's got stuck in there, but because of this evergreen approach, there's always new stuff going in. And right now there's a huge focus on getting more Win 10 things in there. Taylor Brook at 218. Do you guys know anything about Cisco CCNA exam? My instructor is encouraging me to take it because the school will pay for it again. Do you know how it compares to Net Plus? So we got a new piece of information just 2 days ago. CCNA got a big update in February, and now apparently it got another update. They're calling it, this was from a report on here 2 days ago, where they're calling the test CCNA 4. It was CCNA 3. And according to the person who reported on here, they've added some more new material in there. So it used to be a real simple answer. CCNA used to be 2 elements. One, networking, protocols, wiring, ports, OSI models, things like that. And then the other half of it was Cisco specific stuff, learning iOS, the language, and how to configure Cisco routers and things like that. And so when people would ask us, how does that compare with Net Plus? We would say Net Plus covers exactly and everything that the networking stuff in CCNA does. A lot of people therefore would take Net Plus first, get that certified, get that knowledge. And there was very little to study on the networking side then when you were prepping for CCNA. All you had to do was prep for the Cisco specific content. Now there's a whole bunch of new content in there. It's dribbly drabbly stuff. There's 9 new sub areas that they've added as of February, but you didn't have to study in depth for most of those things. That you had to know some stuff about cloud operations from the Cisco perspective and a few other operations. That stuff is still there. I have not yet looked into what new things have been added in the last 60 days. So you're gonna have to do that. But I don't think it's safe to say that there's much comparison anymore. Net Plus, CCNA, 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 CCNA. So there's a whole bunch of stuff now that's CCNA plus the Net Plus stuff. Plus the Net Plus stuff. Who said that?
So in other words, I would take Net Plus before you do your CCNA.
Right, because you're still going to get all that networking background out of the way. And it's 2 good certifications to have on your res.
Yep.
Ian. Hi, Ian. 11 new sims, not Win 11, which doesn't exist.
That goes to a question,
I know.
a discussion we had yesterday. Where he's like, yeah, Windows 11. I'm like, no.
Oh, okay.
No,
I didn't know that was part of that. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
So the inside joke there. Always fun. So Cindy follows up at 219. Oh, Tullowit, really? Pellets? You cheat. I have a Traeger.
You can skip that.
So Cindy says, it won't let me delete the Hyperfill sys file. Says it's used in another program. Do I need to disable hibernation?
Okay, so Windows is holding it open right now. There are ways around. You can force that deletion. The question is, do you use Hibernate? Remember, Windows has 4 modes of non-operation, from shutdown to hibernation to sleep to the other one whose name escapes me. If you don't need or use hibernation, that's that thing that says, I've got to save my battery totally. I've got to have the computer totally shut down. But when I powered up again, I needed to pick up right where it left off last time. Then you need and should use hibernation. But if you're not doing that, I used to use hibernate all the time. I haven't used it now for 10 years. Everything else kind of meets my needs. And so I have it disabled. So it's a personal preference. If you don't need hibernation, if you don't use it, yeah, disable it. Man, there are too many emojis in here. People are getting creative. Andre's got notes.
Andre is singing.
Yes, I'm clear. Elbow, what about compressing the whole C drive? So when you do that, Elbow, everything that's not a system file can be compressed. However, there are certain files that Microsoft says I don't, won't, and can't compress these files. And I believe, I'm very, very confident that Hyperfill is one of those. Same for the virtual drive, the virtual, help me out here, Scott.
VDI?
Virtual RAM.
Oh.
Mohammed Yusuf Babur, welcome, my friend. And there goes my screen blasting off.
So the rest of Elbow's comment about compressing your C drive, not that I've done that and needed to rush to create a Windows repair disk to go into safe mode and uncompress it and lay on the floor in relief that I fixed it.
You know, I always read the first part and focus on that. As soon as I've got an answer for something, I kind of miss the rest.
The humor on that one was too good to pass up.
That's good.
And then Elbow is claiming that he didn't actually do that.
Of course not. No one's ever done any actual mistake. Okay, so Cindy's thanking Ian for helping out at 220, Mohammed. Scott, oh, that's for you. I've heard about your ITF Plus course.
So the ITF Plus course, IT Fundamentals, is just what it sounds like. It's not a technician certification. It's a how do computers work and how do I talk the talk of computer people and know my way around a computer, a laptop, a network, and understand the terminology and the pieces that go into a modern network and computing network. So IT Fundamentals, I love the certification. It's not something you can get a job with, but it's great if you're starting out and you want to fill in some gaps. It's a very broad, but not very deep certification. I have a lot of fun in my video series with it. My book is, of course, brilliant, but the video series is fun. So you can.
You're back patting that like that.
Right?
It is brilliant. I have used it to teach with, and it's excellent.
Thank you. So Tello is saying that that's Japanese.
Yep.
Symbol is actually Japanese for Melopan.
I'll bet he copied and pasted it and looked it up. So, okay. And I like the typo in the first reference. Taco's got an interesting one. He says at 221, I tried powering on an old Dell PowerEdge 2900. It powers on, but I got no image on the monitor. Monitor and cables are good. So I'm going to take that on faith, but make sure that you have tested both of them independently on another system. And then I'm still kind of curious about how the monitor is good based on my next question. Let me finish this here. I've already reseated the hardware. If your hardware was not correctly seated, remember, beep codes are nice and they're interesting and they're available, but there's only two that we can guarantee they're going to happen in two situations. One is if you have no or bad RAM, and the other is if you have no or bad video. So if you're not hearing some alarming set of beep codes during power up, then I would take that on faith that you've got good video card and good RAM. So moving from there then, what are some good troubleshooting steps? So I don't know that make and model. I don't know what that video on board is or what your external card is or things like that. I know that there are output failure modes. So your card may be damaged and the computer can't detect it because it doesn't know what turns up on the monitor and what doesn't. Excuse me. So it could be bad output. And the thing to try there, if you have another machine that you were able to test the monitoring cable on, is to pull the card out of your 2900 and try it in another computer. But if that's not the case, the only other thing that I can think of, if you're absolutely certain that monitor and cable are good, is that the monitor is using a different input than the other system that you've tested on. So maybe you've got a VGA cable connected between the monitor and the computer, but it's set for HDI input, HDMI, or DVI input, something like that. What do you think?
An actual, just a setting on the monitor is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah. So 221, a GIAC says, could discounts apply if going both Linux Plus and also CySA Plus? Discounts apply.
Yeah, the discounts that we're offering today, we don't have courses for those. We do have discount vouchers,
right,
that are applicable to all of the CompTIA lines. They're really, really well priced. They are priced at our discounted price from last year, if I understand this correctly.
yes, that's correct.
Not only did we not raise the prices this year, but we had them on discount last year, and we're continuing to hold those. There is also, I don't think James Stanger limited his offer to any particular classes. I think anybody who uses the CompTIA code that Stanger gave us, that's good till November 1st.
Do you have a slide on that?
Kind of.
Kind of.
I will, while you address the next question or two.
Well, while you look it up.
Right.
Dr. James Stanger from CompTIA was on Mike's live show last week before?
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago.
About 2 weeks ago. And he did a rollicking performance. You should look it up if you want to see a really impressive man in action. It was a very, very fun show. Short story long, at the very end, he decided to drop a bombshell on us and said, for those of us here in the live stream, CompTIA was going to make this great offer on discount vouchers. And when Dave finds that, well, we'll get you the code for it. They undercut us. So if you can take advantage of this, you should, because when you get a discount voucher, you don't have to apply it immediately to a certification. In other words, or an exam. It's good for up to a year. So if you're thinking about taking an exam within the next year and it's a CompTIA exam, use this code that Dave's going to come up with.
Yeah, I'm just gonna do something a little bit funky here, but it'll come up. So stand by, click this, and this. Okay, so this is our usual Q&A special slide, except I've got the notes in here. So the code that we got from Dr. Stanger, if you go to CompTIA and order a voucher from them, he had a really, really good price. I don't remember what they are, but a really good discount. And
it was something like 15%.
The code is Security Web 2020 JS for James Stanger.
All right. Save yourself a little bit of cash. It'd be good.
And I'll copy that and I'll put it in the live.
Falak mentioned that code is only good in the United States,
okay,
not overseas. So those of you who are on this side of the pond, you're in luck. Those of you who are not, sorry.
All right, I put that on the live stream.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right, I've totally lost myself. So there we go. I found it. Okay.
Okay. So at 228.
Yeah, so Cindy did her setup on a Windows system. That makes sense since it was a DLL that got vanished.
Right.
We'll look into that with you, Cindy. Send Scott or I an email summarizing that again, so we can kind of take that as a full research project over the next couple of days and have it ready. I can talk to you about it on Pi Day Friday, or Mike or one of us can talk to you about it on Monday, or we'll just respond by email if we get something firm.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, just send us an email. We like this stuff, and getting a challenge. In fact, I had a couple of questions that came in right at the end, right after the live feed closed yesterday, which was kind of weird, and not weird as in getting the questions, but it's like the gentleman who asked the questions was like, I couldn't make the live stream, but I had these 2 questions, right? And so I'm like, well, I don't know the answers right off the top of my head. I'm just gonna open it up to the Total Seminars gang, and within, I kid you not, a minute, I had 4 answers to the questions from different people on different aspects of the questions. And I was like, okay, this is going to be the most amazingly fast turnaround of email that I have ever done, because I'm notoriously slow on email response. But yeah, so ask your questions, email us.
Hey, we got a good crowd that's developed here, Scott, and this kind of happened to us on Monday. Not everybody knows who we are or why we're here, you and I specifically. So just as a quick reminder, this is the Mike Meyers Ask Me Anything show. He does this twice a week, Monday and Wednesday from 2 to 4 Central. And Mike is traveling. He's on a working vacation right now. Today he's up in Fort Bridger, Wyoming, and has poor or no internet connection up there. He's out in the woods with the bears and the elk. And so he has asked Scott and I to fill in. I am David Rush, and the senior instructor at Total Seminars. I work directly for Scott next to me, and of course under Mike, and he allows us to do these things and take a couple hours off a week from our regular day-to-day projects when he's out or unavailable to fill this in. So I'm the senior instructor there, and I do this and a lot of other side projects. And my partner in crime.
I'm Scott Jernigan. I'm editor-in-chief for the company. I work very closely with Mike and have for a couple of decades, teaching, writing, editing. I've literally edited or co-written 20 books or more with Mike over the last few years, more than a few years, the last decade, 2 decades. And I'm an instructor as well. So yeah, we are filling in for Mike, and it takes 2 of us to fill his big shoes, but you know, we're what you get today.
Used to take 2 of us to fill his big clothes, but he's losing weight so hard and so fast that can't do that anymore either.
Right.
But he could use both of our hair to fill his.
Oh, Dave, that was mean.
Oh, I love the guy to death. Hey, 228. KM, nice to see you, sir. What tech path would you recommend for older professional returning to workforce? Okay, so it's an open-ended question. Obviously, it would help to know a little bit more about your background, but one of the things that we kind of stress in here and that we believe, count the gray hairs in here. I just got hired by Total Sem not too many years ago, and I came from a decent computer technical background, but with a 6-year hiatus in the airlines as an airline pilot. So it took me a little while to get my skill set back up. I've always been a technical instructor and things like that. But if you've got some technical chops and you start working on these tech certifications and maybe some formal education, university oriented, it is not difficult, pandemic conditions accepted, to get into the technical IT type fields as an older or as a more experienced individual. The skill sets are required. They're depending on your job market in the areas that you're willing to live and work in. Mike always says, if you come down here, again, pandemic conditions accepted, you can find decent work with relatively low experience in short order. And the more that you bring to the table, the more certification and knowledge that you bring to the table, the more other experiences that apply or that can be applied into these fields. Now, if you're out in Podunk, Iowa, where they've got one computer fix-it shop and everything else sells John Deere tractors, it's going to be a little tougher. But
KM followed up briefly to address your first question of him or her, I don't know. I have some basic coding experience from many, many years ago, and more recently program management experience. Want to work remotely, which we all do at this point. Yeah, all except for Michael Smyer, who it took until he was almost 30 when he just discovered that he's actually an extrovert, not an introvert. So he's hating this working from home thing. But the rest of us are all like, wee! For me, it's as a true introvert, it's just vacation, constant vacation. So it's awesome. So if you've got some coding experience from early times and you've got project management experience, you're ready. You're ready to rock. Yeah. So just get a certification under your belt. I would start probably with A+ certification, unless you're really, really rusty on computers, and then you could start on ITF+. But probably A+ would be the place to start, just to get the basics of everything. Because A+ covers not just how to build and fix a PC, but it also covers lots of networking stuff, and it covers Mac OS and Linux. It's a very broad certification, and it is the de facto entry certification for all IT techs. So this is a great place to start. And then from there, as Dave said, figure out what you want to do, and tailor your either certification path or get a job and start honing your skills and get time and grade. And it doesn't matter, as Dave pointed out, how old you are. I had a brother Vance popped on a week or two ago and emailed me directly before he got on the live feed and said, yeah, I'm just now finishing up your IT fundamentals class, and I had a question for you. Should I take this other class, right? And I'm like, well, tell me about yourself. And he's like, well, I'm 75 and I do tech support for older folks.
Nice.
Right.
Yeah, that's great.
So this is awesome. It doesn't matter. Age is just a number.
And I'm looking at that. So with coding experience in your past, you've got the principles down, I'm going to presume. You may be rusty on them, as Scott says, but with project management experience and the current most useful coding, if you're going to play A+ and play in the IT tech world, that's great, and advance from there. But with your experience, I would add one more thing into that path, and that's some Python education. So practice it, learn it, and self-teach it. There's a billion cheap courses online. So get some Python under your belt, and man, that's a skill set. Project management and Python. How do you go wrong? Doesn't matter how old you are.
Very good. So at 228,
right.
Frank, hi, and hello yourself. I'm studying for 1002. What's the best way to practice with WinRE? I have an extra Win 10 laptop. This is good when you're dealing with the basic fundamentals of Windows. Having an extra PC that you can destroy is a good thing to do. Is there a safe way to break a Windows machine, or is there a simulation for this?
Okay, what I've got is what we have always taught is in Win 10 to get into the WinRE environment. We have taught in the past that you have to semi-break it. And to do that, what you do is you start it booting, and then you interrupt the boot. You power it down during the boot. And you have to do this 3 times. And after the 3rd time, the system will offer you a series of options during the boot that says, looks like you're having some real trouble here. Which ones? In fact, you'll get those if you interrupt the boot for the 1st time and the 2nd time, but on the 3rd time, you'll get one new option, and that's the WinRE environment. And once you get in there, there's nothing much you can do that's going to hurt the system unless you use the commands in there in a malicious way. And you say you got a backup machine, so you can always just do a fresh reinstall in Win 10 if you really mangle it. We have heard from a student, and I don't think any of us has tested this yet. It's a really simple test. I keep forgetting whenever I power down a machine, is if you will power down your machine using the normal methods, click the start button, click the power off button. Before you click the power off button, press and hold the shift key, and then select reboot. And when it reboots from there, we have been told that it will bring up the WinRE. That's the repair environment for anybody. That's reinstallation. What the hell does the R? What the heck does R stand for in there? I'm thinking repair, but recovery.
Recovery, right?
That's
like
recovery environment.
I was about to explain tell what that was.
Right. Never use a term without defining it, right? Okay, so try that. And if the shift power restart method doesn't work, then just interrupt the reboot or the boot process 3 times in a row, and you'll get to the WinRE menus.
So Meopan at 229 says, I was wondering if I could take Linux Plus after I take A Plus, or maybe should I take the Network Plus before Linux Plus? I would say take Network Plus before you take Linux Plus. The Linux Plus exam is pretty tough. Unless you have plenty of time just to play with Linux. But I mean, there's a lot of assumption of network stuff in there. So,
fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the question. It says, if I could take, so just so you're aware, and you probably are, there is no mandatory prerequisite for any CompTIA certification that I'm aware of. So can I take this today? Yeah, if you want to go and take Cloud Plus today or CYSA today and have never done anything in your life in the computer field, you can do it. All you got to do is give them your money and register for when you want to take the class. Wow, I'm looking at that question. After I take A plus, so yeah, you certainly can. There is some assumed Network Plus knowledge in there that'll be helpful. The last time I took Linux Plus, I didn't pass it. I'm sorry, not the last time, the first time, because it totally blew me away. I'm pretty decent in Debian Linux, and I figured that's what it was all about, and I was wrong. It covered about a half a dozen different distros and compare and contrast. So I found networky things in there, commands that you had to use in the different distros to check the status of networking and make adjustments and things like that. So yeah, there is a certain degree of knowledge that you've got to have to be able to answer some of those questions. So I'm with Scott. Take Network Plus.
So 2:30. Oh my gosh, we're half an hour behind now in the question.
Yeah, I know. We'll get caught up because there's some conversation down here.
So Kevin Lopez, I'm going to take a 2-week vacation from work next week. Excellent. Just to study like a maniac because I'm too broke to go on a real vacation anyway. And good luck taking the A plus exam at the end of September. So good luck.
Doable. You can do that. 2
Yep.
weeks of intense study and a couple of weeks of relaxed study and 2 days off at the end to clear your brain. Super.
Yep, absolutely.
Alice checked in and I missed it. Tell her what's responding to her. Hi, Alice. Missed you somehow, somewhere up there.
Yeah, hi, Alice.
Oh, there it is. Okay, she just poked into, there it is. There.
She's been on for a while.
Of course she has. Although that is not helpful. I just remembered my question. Yeah. And then what usually happens is you post it, which I'm sure I'll find a few lines down. Alice, you're a princess. CCNA is a pain in the eye. 233. Ajake? Well, I'm going to just mangle that. I'm sorry, Ajake. Is there a way to install and run a VM on Win 10 Pro without a SLAT processor? Scott is diligently and rapidly looking up what a SLAT processor is, because
that's exactly what I'm doing. I have no clue.
Maybe it's a typo and should be SALT. We're looking into that. But I would suggest if you're running Win 10 Pro, you have a processor that will run any of the common virtual machines. So Hyper-V or VirtualBox, our favorite VirtualBox, though we have reasons and opportunities to use Hyper-V and VMware. But Scott's looking that up. I'll keep digging down here.
So SLAT is second level address translation. It's virtualization support.
Yeah, I know what that is.
In the CPU. I just had not actually seen it called that, although there you go. Thank you.
So all the current Intel and AMD CPUs for the last 6 or 7 years, maybe longer, do support second level address translation.
Right. So
yeah, could you run it without on a CPU without? You could not run it without, but you got to have a pretty old processor to not have SLAT support in it.
So, and if you're trying to do Hyper-V or something that's internal to Windows, well, there's not anything else, but if you're trying to do Hyper-V, that requires a processor capable of doing hardware virtualization. But if I'm not mistaken, you could run Oracle VirtualBox without having virtualization turned on in BIOS.
You know, Mike has said that, and I've always kind of nodded and not double checked against it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take Mike's word for it, but it has always left me with a question mark.
Okay.
And here's what, you know, I did look that up one time. And what I found is that if you can't find or don't seem to have a BIOS CMOS setting to enable it, what you do is you run Hyper-V, turn it on, enable it, and it will turn it on for you. So a reboot then makes you functional in either environment. I've seen that on the VMware support sites. I'm sorry, on the VirtualBox support sites.
Okay, awesome.
I don't think it can run with, I mean, if the CPU doesn't support it, it's not going to run, but Hyper-V has this magic way of enabling the support on it.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, maybe.
I love it when memories get popped.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wait, I did look that up. So Elbow at 234 says, which would you suggest for a fairly substantial video editing, gaming, work PC, Windows 10 Home or Windows 10 Pro?
Oh, obviously Home.
You can do all of that stuff on Windows 10 Home. And if you're working from home, then you don't need the extra bells and whistles of Windows 10 Pro. So yeah, either one is going to work for you.
Certainly gaming. I got no issue there. Editing, yeah, decent video card.
Editing, you just need
editing, work PC. It all comes to if you have to do some kind of cooperative efforts or integration working with other computers on the local area network. So Home is no longer great for that because Home Groups is gone, and you've got to do kind of the same things that you'd have to do in Pro. But yeah, it will accomplish all those things.
Yeah, but if you're working in a domain or in that kind of environment, then you would definitely want to go Pro.
Right. There's a lot of commands that exist in 10 Pro that are handy, but not necessary in Home. Right. I get that all the time on Udemy. Hey, I just tried to do the thing that Mike demonstrated here with this net command or with local policy editor. That one comes up all the time and it doesn't work. And the answer is always, yeah, that stuff's not in Home. But for what you're talking about, yeah, Home sounds great. I agree with Scott. Stop it. Close down. The lock pulled his message. He's got another one for you with the page.
Well, yeah, no, and it's I actually looked at the same thing as I was kind of refreshing my memory on the LEAP discussion, and yeah, I definitely can understand the confusion there.
Okay, I'm going to add that too, I think, just so we can generate a formal answer for him later.
Yeah, absolutely. So nice to finally join and meet you, great dude. Thank you. Nice to be met and to meet you too. And thanks for asking great questions and hanging out with us. This is something we are definitely doing for fun. And, you know, tell it, use Google Translate. I'm wounded.
Oh, very good.
Japanese, but got
very
a D.
Good.
And high school was a couple of years ago.
But I never could read kanji. Got a D. That's about what I would do. Greetings, Brendan. See, I got it right. Yes, this time. Welcome back. And my friend, just because I love to pronounce your name, hello, Jean Dorival. Hi, guys. What are some good sites to purchase hardware and parts for electronics like phones, laptops, Newegg, Fix-It, iFixit, Amazon, Micro Center, Fry's?
See, I just live on Newegg, and yeah. Their customer service is absolutely the best in the industry. They have good reviews on stuff. Yeah, I just occasionally I'll double check Amazon to price check, but almost always I just go straight back to Newegg. So,
You know, it's a place I recommend, but I actually haven't been there in a long time. Let me check and see if it still exists. Tiger Direct.
Tiger Direct, they seem, I think they're a little expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially compared to,
they're still there. They get refurbs.
yeah. And Ian mentioned PC Part Picker,
Right.
which is an interesting way to go. And then of course, Craigslist.
Yeah, I was gonna say Craigslist, eBay.
Yeah.
You know what you're looking for. Great way to go.
Yep.
Ian, by the way, I think you can write off the voucher cost if your taxes is job or training materials. Okay, take that on faith. The one thing I know about writing off training costs is if you expend money to start a job, career, whatever, that start expenditures aren't writable. I learned that when I was becoming a pilot. So getting your private pilot license and all of that good stuff, and even getting your commercial pilot license, you can't write any of that off because by definition, you don't have a flying job or an aviation-oriented job until you achieve that commercial license. Once you have it, in order to advance your career, you have to take training and that becomes writable. And of course, we're talking about US tax code here. So wherever you are in the world may be different, but talk to your accountant.
Ian did point out that that's why he said he wasn't certain.
Yeah, none of us are. Somebody
So
has
there
about
you
to
go.
ring my doorbell that it looks important. So, hi,
So-
Debbie. You're on your own for a second.
Oh, great. I was going to have you
Yeah, I'll
actually
be back.
pronounce Debbie's last name.
I'll be back in just, Strock.
Strach. There we go. I probably didn't quite get it guttural enough, but you know, I never did take German. So, Alice asking Taylor a question. Tell it. Oh, there you go. PC Part Picker. Sure. That's a good point. I use PC Part Picker to kind of play with different machine parts, but yeah, they do keep a running, I totally forgot that. They keep a running price list of where you can find each component at the best price at that moment in time.
Nice. Huh?
So not only can you build your computer, but you can also spec it out and price it at the same time. So a very good site.
Mike Smith at 246 is asking, what was that code again? I'll pop up the our code real quick here. So for joining us today, we've got a special deal on some of the products from Total Seminars. You get 50% off all the A Plus and Net Plus super bundles. That includes the video, the Total Tester, and the Total Sims, or the regular bundle, the Sec Plus video and Total Tester bundle. The code is MMLive824. That was Monday's date. Easy to remember at checkout. So
And
really
I think
the Total Tester is a very realistic kind of simulation of how the CompTIA exams work. The Total Sims, some of them are close recreations of performance-based questions that you'll find, and we have a number of different other types of simulations in there. And of course, the videos, you get to watch Mike for 34 hours.
Which is exciting.
What could be better?
Right. And if you were talking about, so that the code that Dave just put up, you can, that's at www.totalsim.com. The code that is for Dr. Stenger for his lecture, Elbow just posted it at 308 again for you. And Dave is popping it up there. That's valid at CompTIA.org. So, and that is for a certain discount on the vouchers. I think it was 15%. I think it was quite substantial.
Yeah, I remember what it was.
Yeah.
The number. Cool.
All right. So we're at 246.
All right. Yep. So Frank's playing
And
with
he's suggesting use machines and virtual machines for doing the Windows RE stuff, which is, yeah, of course.
Yep. There's Andy STL at 248. Dave enjoyed Raspberry Pi on building media server on Plex. Is there a way to move saved video from a commercial DVR to a Pi? A commercial, I'm not sure what you mean by commercial DVR. Because I don't use any kind of DVR stuff anymore. I'm a total cord cutter. I don't have any boxes that can work cooperatively with anything like the usual cable companies and things like that. I will take that as a project. We're going to do the Plex server, weather permitting, if we're not shut down on Friday. So I'm going to take a whack at that for you, Andy.
So, and those of you who don't know what Dave is talking about, on Fridays, it's not the usual Mike AMA show. It's instead a Q&A with Dave Rush, and I'm involved as well. But it focuses on the Raspberry Pi, which is a very tiny, inexpensive computing device that's all one piece, that's amazing, and it runs Linux. And last Friday, for example, that's a full-blown computer. That's a Pi. Last Friday, for example, Dave did a great presentation on how to turn that little tiny $35 computer into a full-blown media center, and using a tool called Kodi, which is free. And this coming Friday, from 2 to 4 Central Daylight Savings Time, Dave is going to doing the Pi on yet another type of media server called a Plex server. So join us for that. It'll be fun. You can also ask all kinds of crazy questions because we'll be there to answer them. So that's Friday from 2 to 4 p.m. Central Daylight Savings Time, assuming we don't get completely blown out by the hurricane, which is coming in a few hours. So there you go. That's my one little caveat.
248, Alice, let's give Mike a satellite internet connection. So I'm not sure, Alice, if you got a chance to see any of his videos for any of his courses, but we were shooting a Net Plus video and we were looking at various ways to connect remotely and high distance, including satellite. And I've got a satellite connection here, and I dug up my satellite dish and pole, and we took it down to his house and shot it with him hauling it over his shoulder or something like that, and brought it back home. So it's my backup for crisis mode. And I haven't had to use it in 10 years, but yeah, it's available for him. We could do it.
But I think what you meant is he should have taken it with him on this trip.
Yeah, oh, wouldn't that have been interesting? By the way, Dave says, Elbow, I saw you can't answer or Udemy earlier today on Udemy. I thought that was really funny and actually helpful. Okay, so sometimes somebody will post a question on Udemy that goes way above and beyond the scope of what Mike is teaching or what the objectives call for. And I may or may not answer that. If I have some knowledge in the area and I can give a quick answer, I will. But more often than not, I use those as an opportunity for people to learn. And I'll point out, hey, this is above and beyond the objectives, but I can see that you're interested in this. So I recommend you do a little online searching, and I give them some search terms to start out with. And I'll usually provide a link of the first thing that I find on those search terms to get them started. So yeah, if you post a question on there and I tell you I don't know, or you should try and answer it yourself, it's because it's not something that you need to know to get through a particular exam that Mike's trying to teach.
So at 249, Brendan S. asks, IT in a school setting versus the private sector. What are some of the differences, and which option is preferred for most techs?
Fire away.
Well, let me parse that.
Yeah.
Brendan, do you mean, I guess this means being an IT person, as in being a tech, like at a university or a school, versus the private sector, as in like a commercial entity? Well, if you're one, you get paid more if you're out in the commercial world. So that's something. Two, if you're like me and really love the university setting, then getting paid a little less just to hang out on campus is awesome. So there's no real difference in the jobs. You're stringing cable, you're setting up computers for people, you're enabling networking, you're troubleshooting. They seem to be the same jobs. I guess out in the commercial world, you would go beyond, because then you'd start, when you start getting into the nastier security stuff like pen testing and that kind of thing, then you start getting specialties that are very much applicable to the commercial sector and not so much to the university setting. So you definitely go beyond.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing. So if you're in a formal school setting, a university setting, a high school setting, whatever the case may be, even a setting of sitting down in front of a monitor watching Mike talk to you, what you're going to get there is the objectives that you need to prep for the test, some above and beyond. But we can only do so much in a face-to-face classroom environment. Whereas if you're working and learning at the same time with hands-on training, on-the-job training, you've got mentors, you're going to see things far above and beyond what the test objectives are ever going to call for. So it's a wonderful learning experience, and will certainly speed up growth, I would think, for career use. Totally with you, Scott. Colowit, you are not an introvert yourself.
Just because, okay, see, this is always the confusion, because people will look at me and they'll go to one of my classes and I'm just up there performing and I'm doing all this crazy stuff, and they're like, "Wow, this guy is incredibly outgoing." It's like, no, it's a performance, right? I then go back to my hotel room and cry for 2 hours after I teach for 8 hours, because it's like having to put myself out there and be that pretend extrovert, right? So Tolowit cracking jokes here because he's safe behind that screen. See, that's why he can.
Yeah, I considered that when I said it, but I was giving him benefit of the doubt. Yeah, we got to catch up here.
Elbow, I'm actually 50% introvert and 50% extrovert. You mean you're just normal?
Hey, great news. 255. Jean Doroval reports that shift key power down does work. He's tried it. So good.
Oh, excellent. I was going to try it, but that would have killed our live stream.
Yeah.
As soon as you said it, I was like, oh, really?
You see names and you see questions and answers posted on here, and you get a mental image of who we're talking to and from, and sometimes they're right and most of the times they're not. Falak, I'm totally wrong. I had you pegged not at 44. I'm not going to suggest I had you pegged older or younger, but 44 was not the age range that I had you pegged in. Used to develop software for Fox Pro. Holy Hannah, I remember that. Visual Basic till 98. Did law practice in Pakistan and UK, and now moving to CyberSec. Well, then you're definitely taking the right path, drilling down into the Sec Plus, and I appreciate the thoughtful effort that you're putting into it. You really dig deep into it.
Yep, I think that's great. That's great.
Debbie Strzok is a reserved extrovert. I saw that with dyslexia for a second, and I thought reversed introvert. Which was
that's good.
Lots of interconversation going on, which is good because we can kind of zip down and get caught up. Hey, Texas Aggies here. Greetings. You guys are nice and safe up in Aggie land. Do you live up there, Texas Aggie? Or I'm not thinking you're down here in Houston with us, buckling down, I imagine. Stay safe.
But yeah, extrovert morning person.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And right after that, Amar Ansari, another new voice and face in the crowd. Welcome, Amar.
Welcome.
I'm just zipping past all these things that are added to each other. They're conversing with each other.
Yeah, although I'm gonna stop on.
You got one? Go get
it. At 303 because it's like I do gaming and video editing just fine on Windows 10 Home. So the OS is the least of my limitations. Processor is the main thing. GPU to a lesser extent. sufficient RAM being another one that's incredibly important.
Oh yeah, for editing.
Swapping out your ancient hard drive for, or at least for your production software, having that on SSD instead of a hard drive is useful. Of course, you're going to use a hard drive to store the giant video files, but to have the working files be, your scratch drive, for example, be an SSD, that's helpful as well.
Nice. Ian's checked in, agrees with Part Picker and Craigslist.
Sorry, I'm going back up.
I'm at 305 right now.
The scroll crazy.
Okay. At 305, Elbow says, so if there's no super noticeable difference in getting home versus pro for super uses, I'll tell them home. Yeah, I think we're all in general agreement here. Yeah, cool, Ian. Again, none of us are tax experts here. I'm only relaying my own personal experience, and there's clearly much more to the tax code than what you and I know about. No, don't change your name to something less dweeby. It stands out.
Although I've already forgotten.
I forgot. I blew that. Right, the Strauch. My mistake. And we covered that last week. I was standing by the door when I said Strauch, so you're right.
Yeah, Strauch, right?
Jeff Smith. Greetings, Jeff. First time. What certificate did you say was wide but not deep?
It's the I was discussing the IT Fundamentals Plus, kind of the very first certification that people get if you're really new to the whole IT. It is wide. I mean, it covers everything from how computers work and little things on troubleshooting to basic networking components to programming to database development. I mean, it's like it goes all over the place. And the first time I looked at the database thing, I was like, "Are you kidding me? I'm not teaching baby techs how to do databases."
SQL databases, no less.
Right. No, and it was wow. Okay, this is crazy. And then I started thinking about what the whole certification was trying to do, which was simply to introduce you to the scope of what IT is today. And it enables you by touching lightly on all of these subjects, you can go, ooh, this programming thing looks really cool. I don't care about wanting to build my own computer, but being able to write software, that would be fun. And that would steer you in the direction of your interest and your passion. So that's why I think CompTIA did what it did with IT Fundamentals Plus.
311, Andre de Goyert says to you, if I buy the Sec Plus bundle now, will I be able to access the Sims 2 when they become available? You should put the 4 emojis after that, Andre.
You're killing me, Andre. You're killing me. No, that's the problem, right? I can't sell you a product I don't have. Kathy will sell you a product that I haven't finished. She will do that because I know she's done that in the past. She's like, oh, when are you finishing that product? I'm like, why are you asking me, Kathy? Well, because I just sold it to a school. And I'm like,
right.
Oh. That has happened many times over the years.
Kathy is famous for that. I hear you're working on a thing. I sold one. Okay, I got your details, Andy STL. And you know what? I made cruddy notes on the first part of that, so I'm going to follow up on that. Scott, you're on. I'm going to go back in the menu here for a second and find something.
Okay. So Alice and Taylor are swapping notes back and forth about their experience with the online or proctored exams and freezing. Yeah, power almost went out for Taylor. Alice's Mac froze for 4 to 5 seconds right in the middle of her exam. That's exciting. Very exciting. Yeah. Especially if it's not something that you have control over, right? I mean, certainly if somebody wanders in and starts talking in the middle of your exam and they pull the plug on you, well, that's your bad, not theirs, right? They're just doing their job. But when something like your computer freezes up for a couple of seconds, and it's like, it's already.
Yeah, I've seen a couple reports on We've seen a couple reports here like that, and apparently they're pretty smart and good over at Pearson VUE for recognizing what's a legitimate interruption as opposed to something that they ought to cancel you for. I have a UPS to avoid bad surprises. I get bad surprises from UPS.
No, well, see, they were going back and forth over, there was a big storm and lightning and, you know, so yes. Oh, and if that brings up a good point. If you're working on a regular computer and don't have a UPS,
yeah,
you should get a UPS, especially if you live down here where there are incredible storms. Yeah, a UPS is an amazing lifesaver, and it would definitely keep you up and running in the middle of a slight power outage. Although, I guess if the power goes out completely, your internet goes out too, so you're pretty much out of luck.
Yep. 314, a GIAC says, does the A+ cover SSL, SSH, and/or asymmetric key encryption? I'm only through chapter 7 on the A+ book. No, it does not, a GIAC. The A+ is hardware, operating systems, mobile devices, and things like that. We start digging into some security concepts lightly, like SSL and SSH in Net+. Now, SSH, we do address what it is and what port it's on in A+, but you don't have to know how to use it or how security works in it or anything like that. We'll do that in depth in Sec+ and in light in Network+. And same thing, a very, very, very broad overview about secure systems, key encryptions, and things like that. But again, covered a little detail in Network+ and a lot of detail in Security+.
I'm wondering whether, so Amar was asking Alice, is A+ useful? Right? I don't see her answer yet because I'm not that far down the stream. Yes.
Yeah, she answers at 316, about 5 messages down.
Okay.
Not targeted to him. About hardware, A+ Core 1 is all about hardware, so A+ is a very useful one. Ian, the moral is believing nothing actors say. I always thought the best commercial would start with, I'm not an actor, but I play one on TV.
I keep wanting to do extra videos with straight up just actors, you know, just bring them in and make them play texts.
Yes.
You know, why not?
Yeah. They do it on Star Trek, right? As long as you can say the problem is in the nacelles and we've got to recalibrate the warp reactor.
What are you saying, Dave? They know exactly what they're talking about on Star Trek.
I know, it's all true.
I don't know. I'm worried about you.
You also know that one of my favorite movies is Galaxy Quest. And that one they proved it was true. Okay. I went way down here, 319. I've just been kind of skipping past stuff to catch up a little bit. So 319, 1995 Texas Aggie is over in Blue Austin. So
behind enemy lines. Those of you who aren't from Texas, the big rivalries in the public universities in Texas, the biggest rivalry is the University of Texas in Austin and Texas A&M University in College Station. So they're very close geographically. They're wildly different culture-wise, and yeah, that's the big rivalry. Although my alma mater, University of Houston, tries to get in the game, but never doesn't quite have the visceral reaction that the Aggies and the Longhorns have when interacting.
Getting wins here. It's beginning.
Nice.
Brendan agrees with you. I was like that as a teacher. Oh, okay, so we're still talking about introvertism and extrovertism.
Yep.
So yeah.
So Marv is here.
If you don't have If you're an introvert and you've got to put yourself in front of people to be successful, you got to act it.
This is true.
Marvin, nice to see you again. See, I didn't bother all 4 names.
So at 322, Mike Smith asks, I'm not sure I understand digital certificates. If you decrypt the message with the private key, it won't make any sense if it was changed, right? Then why do you need the hash 2?
Okay, so we got a couple concepts conflated here, Mike. During the digital certificate exchange, one of the methods to do that is called HMAC. And I'm not going to do a whole presentation on HMAC here because frankly, I'm not that good at it. But that's not the only way that a digital certificate gets exchanged. But we're talking about a hash-based MAC that Scott's probably going to look up and come up with. I don't agree with Mike. I think you got to know what stuff stands for, but I'm not current on HMAC, though it does come up on my plate fairly regularly. So let's go back here a little bit. That says we've got a digital certificate. No matter what happens in the end, the whole goal is for the digital certificate holder to send, that's typically a server, but not always, to send to another host a public key and for it to keep the private key, and vice versa. The other side who wants to do an encrypted conversation needs to send me, I'm the guy with the certificate in this instance, their public key and my private key. So we're going to go back a little bit here and say that, let's say it's you and I, Mike, and I've got a digital certificate and I want to send you my public key. Well, the first thing that should come into your mind is I've gotten this key purportedly from a guy named Dave. And how do I know it really comes from Dave? So I've got to create a transfer mechanism that gets my public certificate information to you in such a way that it arrives so that nobody could have intercepted or hacked it. And then for your machine to be able to verify that the digital certificate copy or information that I've sent to you is legit. So you can contact an intermediate authority or a full certificate authority and compare that with. So the process gets really kind of convoluted. We start on my side with me encrypting with a private key something that you have access to that's not encrypted. Typically an unsecure website or some unsecure information. So we're going to be able to do these things independently and therefore verifiable later. So you're going to take a copy of a website and you're going to encrypt it with an appropriate key and then hash it. Meantime, I'm going to do kind of the same thing on the other side and send you a hash. This isn't all the details and it's not 100% accurate, but it's close enough. But in all the junk and gobbledygook that I'm going to send to you, I'm going to send you a hash, and you're going to check that against a hash that you generated. And if they match up, that's the first stage of confirming that we got the right stuff going on. Then I'm going to do some more with it and send it to you, and you're going to independently do some more with it. And once again, do another verification. There's kind of 3 sub-verifications that happen along the way before you finally get everything that I want you to have. And then you can kind of finish out by saying, all right, I believe this is Dave's certificate. Now let me contact an intermediate authority or a certificate authority and say, hey, is this really a registered thing? So apologies for, it's a little bit of a sloppy explanation. The best explanation you're ever going to find of it is in Mike's Sec Plus book. He's got it written out very, very well. He did kind of an abbreviated version on the video presentation, very much like what I did here. So it's a little bit sloppy, but if you can get hold of the book or just an excerpt thereof. And of course, there's a million websites that have little tutorials on it. If you just Google HMAC digital certificate process, you can see lots of flow charts and step-by-steps. It's a very complicated process, but the whole point is I have to prove to you, or you have to be able to prove that what I sent you really came from me, from Dave Rush. Can you improve on that? Actually, I know you can, Scott, but do you have
Say what?
I'm sure you have some improvement on that.
You'll have to wait and read the 3rd edition.
There you go. That's true, right? So Mike and Scott are writing Sec Plus, and they've done a recreation of it. And the one that was in the 501, that is in the 501 book, is very, very good. So I'm sure the 601 book is just as good.
It'll be even better.
Or better, right?
Guaranteed. So
Ian,
322
for ITF.
Yep. Kudos for ITF. For Ian, thank you.
We're not too far behind. What are we on? I'm on 322.
We're not too bad. It's only 3:35.
Yeah. Yeah, about 12 minutes behind.
So Jeff says thanks to earlier explanations. And he's currently working on NetPlus. And as Tullowit points out, NetPlus is also wide, but not very deep. But it's, yeah, NetPlus, a lot of people find NetPlus a little harder than A+. A+ being also extremely wide, because I guess it's the thing with CompTIA exams. Sec Plus is not so wide, but there's a lot of stuff you have to memorize.
I think it is very wide, because when you look at the range of topics that we're talking about securing and analyzing for risk. So we talk about computers, we talk about facilities, we talk about people, we talk about NIST. It's got a lot of breadth to it. Ian, wait a minute. Okay, so Ian's really joining in. Hey, buddy, 320.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, took a course A+, as the only person who had taken it was far ahead. People trying to start out with A+ are often overwhelmed unless they have ample computing experience. And it all depends on your experience, and it all depends on the course that you're taking. So if you have zero experience and you open up Mike's book, by the time you've gotten through 1,200 pages, you've got 2 years of equivalent experience.
Right, but if it is overwhelming, and in fact, there's no reason that even if you start with A+ and you're like, this is a little too much for me, going back and doing IT Fundamentals Plus is a great way to start. It's because I don't assume you have any prior knowledge. None.
Right.
So I'll take you through, how the computing process works, and we build from there, just how all the parts interact. And once you get those fundamentals in place, then start layering on top of that all of the more complexity that is a modern computing network environment. But yeah, start all the way at the beginning. A lot of fun.
I'm checking something out. You're on your own.
So at 328, Ian agrees with you that Tim Allen's most underrated.
I did see that.
Terrence Tech at 329, and hi Terrence, I hadn't seen you post earlier. Hey guys, any plans for CySA Plus course as an upgrade to Sec Plus? So we do, we have a CySA Plus course on Udemy, and I'm spacing on the author's name.
Brent
Chapman, thank you, who does a great job. And he's a stand-up guy. He came in, did the show en route from leaving or getting out of the military, where he was a security analyst, to going and working for Apple or Google or somebody like that.
Yeah.
Straight up, just as a security guru. So good stuff. We're planning to update the course. We were actually in process of updating the course when the lockdown occurred and we got kicked out of our studio, and also trying to get a subject matter expert to fly in when you shouldn't be on a plane is proven problematic. And then getting in close contact with all of our video team, who are also not in close contact with anybody. So that project is on hold for the time being. So we will update that when we can. But for now, the CySA Plus course on Udemy is still current and still good, although the new objectives have come out for the updated exam.
There you go. That's what I was looking up. So you covered it. 329, Debbie, North Texas. The biggest rivalry is UT with OK every October, the Red River Shootout.
That's right. That's right.
My kid's up in the neck of the woods now at Tech with the Red Raiders. Though he doesn't, he just doesn't feel the rivalry of the rest of the Texas schools.
And then my son is at Trinity in San Antonio, so he's rivalry. What? Yeah, no, just doesn't happen.
330, Ajake. You know, I get it right sometimes. Thanks, you guys are the funniest time I've had in a while. Is there a way to update all apps in Win 10 from the administrative account? I seem to have logged into each local account separate, and go Texans. Update all apps in Win 10. Now, there's nothing like the way the mobile operating systems work. So in iOS, there's a regular check and an update for all apps, and same for Androids, or that's a selectable operation. I've never seen anything like that in the Windows environment. Some programs do automatically go out and check for updates and auto update or prompt for updates. You've probably all experienced at some point or another a Java or a JavaScript update announcement. But I don't know anything where you can click a button and say, go out. Oh, and then let's go back here. So Linux, you can do that. If you do a sudo apt-get update and sudo apt-get upgrade, it will update and upgrade the operating system and all of the installed programs, which is just cooler than all get out, except for one that screws me every time it updates. But there's nothing like that in Windows that I'm aware of. Do you think I'm asking what, or answering what he's asking, Scott?
That's what it sounds like to me.
Okay. Yeah, and then, okay, so if we parse that out a little further, not only would it be super cool to do that for an account login as Dave, but what about the other 5 accounts that log in here and have different installed apps for their accounts? So I think that's where he's going with it, and I think the answer is no.
So at 331, Marv mentions, I was going to talk about a server that I had broken because of lightning, but that time was the main hard drive was broken. And this went crazy.
I have certainly lost equipment to lightning strikes, a computer and peripherals and things like that. Fortunately, we've even had this happen at the office a few times, that for those rare devices we have that aren't on a UPS, and that's what will provide some protection from surges and brownouts, but lightning is far beyond the scope of what a basic UPS can do. But many, many times it explodes the power supply and nothing else gets damaged. We replace the power supply and back to business as usual. But obviously other equipment can be destroyed. And
Yep.
Thank you, Scott. Hash-based message authentication code, HMAC. A common way of passing out digital certificates.
Right. So at
Yeah,
3:30,
Marvin says, even with the UPS, sometimes it happens. We're in agreement.
yep. Jean Dorival says, Scott and Dave, after Set Plus, what certifications do you suggest? I'm more of a Windows guy and unreasonably paranoid. You think security focus?
Right. So there's the decision, right? A+, Net+, Sec+ are the foundational trifecta. That's what you want to start with before you pick a specialty path. So now when you're ready to pick a specialty path, it's what do I want to do in life? So if you want to be a security analyst, if you want to be a pen tester, if you want to be something else, then you're going to build a path based on that. And we've mentioned this before. If you head over to CompTIA and do a search on their site for CompTIA Career Roadmap, they have a wonderful set of potential career opportunities and their recommended certifications that you would pursue along the way. Microsoft has a similar roadmap that includes their certifications and some crossover. So there's no way to answer that until you say, this is what I want to do, and start studying for that. And if you go down the road and you say, I'm really loving this, you keep on the path. And if you go down the road a little ways and I've taken a few and say, man, this is not what I thought it would be and what I'd have to know, then maybe you can reevaluate. Called Net Plus because it's a wide net. Few more emojis, please. Ian, I've seen you use that on our internal communications too. Tulowit has a question for you, or a comment. Sec Plus reminds me of my counterintelligence MOS in the Army. It's a huge overview, as Dave said. The rest was OJT in specific areas, depending on where you went. Very cool. And another facet of you that we didn't know about, and one for us to be afraid of. This is for you based on the person's name, 339, Egalitarian 207.
What kind of performance-based questions can I expect on the Network Plus N10007 exam?
Have you heard about total sims, Egalitarian?
Wow, what kind of questions do we get?
There are.
It's been a couple of years since I took it.
There's port protocol questions, click and drags.
Right.
There is, oh man, why isn't it able to communicate with its peers on the network?
Right.
Right, so you got to get into ipconfig, run ipconfig all on all the computers and find out what their IP addresses are. I'm getting pretty close to the line here. And then you've got to find out which one has an incompatible address, and then you've got to go and use the appropriate utility to find a compatible address. It's everything that Mike shows you in the videos and what we have on Total Sims.
And it also felt very real world to me. It didn't feel like artificial stuff that, oh, they're just slapping these things up because they're making commands go together. It was like, we do this stuff when we're network troubleshooting and setting up network equipment and configuring a router, for example, or configuring a wireless access point. This is all stuff that we do on a regular basis. So just.
Hey, here's what I want everybody to do. Go to totalsim.com and look for our training stuff and go check out the Total Sims, because we have free ones there. And so you get an idea, and you may even see some stuff in there that is current and real. We don't just make free ones in kind of the way Scott described. We just slap something together so you can see what a simulation is. Some of them are quite true to form and preparatory in nature. So if you haven't gone and checked out the Total Sim website, just to go check out our Total Sims. We don't have a practice set yet of total tester questions. I think that's under discussion, but definitely got some free Total Sims.
Right. So at 340, Egalitarian follows up and says he or she is preparing to take the Network Plus exam in late September. So good luck. You've got plenty of time. So yeah, that's awesome. We look forward to hearing about your success. That's
right. Cindy's back. Hi again at 341. I sold computers for a reseller for years and then worked for a web developer. A+ is a challenge because it digs into things you don't think about, such as 802 frequencies and ports and mail protocols. Right. It's a broad certification. Again, foundational, leads to Net Plus, leads to Sec Plus, leads to areas that might pique your interest. Hey, what's all this wireless stuff about? Maybe I'll become a wireless expert, or dig further into it and work with contractors, installers who do wireless installations and consulting. So yeah, we do cover a lot of, CompTIA covers a lot of areas in their objectives, and our books and our videos address all of those. Know your RAID. Yeah, got to know RAID. I had a guy, we engaged in a bunch of back and forth this morning on Udemy about whether or not you could RAID external hard drives and thumb drives and things like that. And that's one of those areas that CompTIA doesn't deal with very directly. They do kind of in an aside fashion. So this is an area where the gent had a personal desire, or a customer who did. And so he reached out to us to start out, and then it may have been one of the ones that I said, here's a good opportunity to do some research.
So late in the feed, Tulowit responded to Cindy, know your RAID. He said, is that an A+ thing or World of Warcraft? Good stuff.
New face at 344. Let's try Pocius, P-O-C-I-U-S. Hello, yeah. I'm about ready to book my A+ exam. Could you suggest what to repeat and learn more? I've written up a full-on 38-page concept of the course. Do you think it's enough? So there's no way to say any particular objective is more important or that you need to learn more than another, except by looking at the domain objectives and saying this objective is going to be 27% of the test and this one is going to be 15% of the test. Obviously, you got to put a little more study into those higher percentage domains. That said, you don't know what you know until you find out what you don't know. And what that means is take a practice test. Okay, so find our practice test, find one of the other online practice tests, whatever makes you happy, and run through it. And that will help you gauge what areas you know well and what areas you don't. Remember what we know and what we don't know about the exams is we don't know how big the pool is, but we know that you're going to get a random selection of questions from that big pool. Our general theory is there's about 600 questions in that pool, but we could be way off. And we know that you're going to get, let's say it's a 100 question test. It's not. And 27% of the questions are on security. So you're going to get about 27 questions on security. It's going to 90 questions is the max, and folks are getting in the 60s to 80s these days. So you have just as much chance of getting a question about this topic as you do about that topic. So again, there's nothing more important of topically speaking than another. What do you think, Scott?
I agree.
Oops, I bounced my camera. Sorry, guys. Leg. Now I'm going to adjust it. Okay.
Yeah, Ian, we know that you recycle old jokes. We already know this. So yeah, Jean, if you're having trouble communicating, yeah, just buzz us again. I posted my email there. So, okay.
Oh yeah. Actually, I don't recall if you've seen anything in my email from Jean Dorval. Yeah, please email again. Reading Elbows.
Yeah, that's what I was reading too. At 348, Elbows asking, just curious, think you might have missed it before. What did Mike mean by saying that Windows 10 Pro can take advantage of CPU power? Is that something that would even apply to video editing?
Yeah, we talked about this in the past. It was a misspeak on Mike's part. In fact, I think, Elbow, you probably asked me about this. I know somebody did recently on Udemy. There is no difference in what Pro can do with, to, for, or at a CPU that Home can't. Right. And when that question got asked to me and I answered it on Udemy, I went and dug into it just to make sure I wasn't talking out of my hat.
Out of your hat?
I was very careful.
That's like being a pain in the eye. Awesome.
And then at 348, GIAC says, what does Waze, W as a service, really mean to me as a PC user with Win 10 Pro? Last question. Don't make this your last question. If it's last today, cool, but come back on Friday and Monday and Wednesday and every time. WAAS, Windows as a service?
I don't know.
We talk in our classes about the three historically big platforms: platform as a service, software as a service, and infrastructure as a service. I'm going to theorize that Windows as a service may be what you're talking about, which is a specific implementation, I would think, of software as a service. And that simply means you're paying Microsoft one way or the other with an upfront fee or with a subscription fee for them to make sure that your version of Windows is continually current and updated. But flesh that out. Tell us what W you're thinking of, because the number of possibilities there. Oh, maybe it's World of Warcraft as a service.
No, it could be Cisco. It could be the Cisco Wide Area Application Services.
Okay.
I mean, I'm literally looking it up on Wikipedia.
Yeah, how that applies to a PC user with Win 10 seems pretty tenuous.
Yeah, I don't know the Cisco product, so I can't even begin to answered your question, Jacques.
I will, I'll save that one and do a little research on it.
Okay, sounds good. So egalitarian at 3:48. We're getting down to the end, Dave. It's
we got 6 minutes. We're pretty close to the end. We're gonna be all right.
6 minutes, yeah. Okay, so what type of this is a great question. What type of commercial technologies like Wireshark are going to be on the Network Plus exam? Will Nmap and TCP dump be on N10007? I have a very simple answer for you. Yes.
I have a simpler answer. No. Conceptually, sniffers and analyzers are there, but there's no product specific information in there.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Although if you're not using Wireshark, Nmap and TCP dump, you should be. So, because how else are you going to learn your network sniffing and
Right. Go check out not the most recent Friday. Oh yeah, no. Check out the most recent Friday is Raspberry. We installed Wireshark on a Raspberry.
That's true. That was fun.
Yeah.
And then ran through the process of using it. So that was cool.
What are some good sources, asked Egalitarian, good websites to find realistic free practice exams for Net Plus? Google.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, Google N10-007 free exams. You'll find lots. Good. Comme ça. You want good ones? They're not free, but they're inexpensive. We have them on discount all the time, and you can find them at Total Seminars.
And if you don't want ours, there are plenty of other companies that have really good practice exams. So yeah, you can find them, but I don't know any good ones that I would recommend that are free.
Yep. Hey, we've only got 5 questions and 4 minutes to do them. We'll be all right.
All right.
So at this point, everybody should start posting things like, thanks for another great show, Scott and Dave, and we'll answer these 5 and wind up right on time.
I do have to point out that Cindy has no World of Warcraft, to which Televet responded, that drops your nerd cred, but shows true wisdom, life choices. Having spent 10 years of my life playing World of Warcraft obsessively, yes, those were poor life choices, and my wife and children would agree. So
very good. Okay, Ajake has given us that W is for Windows. So Windows as a service. I don't see that as a specific offering. I've never heard the term from Microsoft.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Just considered as software as a service, and Windows and their various offerings qualify under SAS. So what does that mean? It means you pay them money, again, as an upfront fee or as an ongoing subscription fee, and they in turn will keep all your Windows and appropriate software current and up to date. Jean Doroval, 354. Are the Udemy video courses the same as the ones on Total Sem Training Hub? Also, are you guys hiring?
Well,
so first question's easy. Content-wise, yes, they're the same. It's the same mic, it's the same words, it's the same video. There's difference in branding and things like that. But yeah, pick one, pick the other. Somebody posted today on one of my support forums that they signed up for the course during the sale that they've got going on. I guess today, he said he's bought it today. So while we're not admitting that you could buy things very inexpensively for lifetime access at Udemy, including all of our courses, somebody might have said that out loud somewhere.
Somewhere.
No, well, this is a pandemic. We're not hiring. We're all praying to keep our jobs.
Which isn't quite true. In fact, we just hired Ian Camacho a couple of weeks ago. So welcome aboard, Ian.
Yeah.
Send
Mike a resume.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Michael M, totalsem.com.
Don't send it to him. Send it to me, Scott J at totalsem.com.
Yeah, I think we caught up, Scott. We got a minute to go.
Wow. Okay, we really did pull this to the end.
Yeah, we did. We're not saying thanks for the show, LBUE. Such a... All right, well, we're going to wind it up. Weather permitting, we'll be back again on Friday doing Pi Day Friday with Scott and Dave. And if not, fully expect to be back on Monday, knock wood, with Mike.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, thank you guys. This was a lot of fun today. And
All right. So our gratitude to everybody behind the scenes, Ian throwing out answers and questions, Michael Smyer working the behind the scenes YouTube stuff, Mike for letting us do this, and most of all, you guys, thanks for coming in. We want you to all be safe. If you're in the weather affected area, please do the best thing for you and your folks, escape or hunker down safely. We'll do the same.
all right, guys, we'll see you Friday. Until then, good
Good to
night.
see everybody. Goodbye. They can't fake it. They can see my plasma screen running in the background.